The Galactic Coalition had ruled the stars for 10,000 years. They had conquered 800 worlds. They had never lost a war. Their armies were the strongest in the known universe, and their ships could burn whole planets to ash dot, so when their scouts found a small blue world rich with helium crystal, the rarest fuel in the galaxy, they did not worry. They sent their fleet. They expected an easy victory. The planet was called KX7741 in their records. But the creatures who lived there had another name for it. They called it Earth. Admiral Vithris stood on the bridge of her flagship and studied the data on her screen. She was tall and thin with gray skin and 4 arms. Her people, the Nalani, were among the oldest races in the Coalition. They had helped build the Great Empire. They had crushed countless rebellions. Vithris herself had won 12 campaigns without losing a single ship. This mission would be her 13th victory. "Tell me about these natives," she said to her science officer. The officer, a small creature covered in blue scales, pulled up the information. "They call themselves humans, Admiral. They are a young species. They've only had technology for a few hundred years. They have no faster-than-light travel. No energy shields. Their weapons use chemical explosions to fire small pieces of metal." Vithris laughed. "Metal projectiles? How primitive." "Yes, Admiral. However, I must note something unusual." The officer hesitated. "Their planet is classified as a Category 9 Deathworld." Vithris stopped laughing. Deathworlds were planets so dangerous that life should not exist on them. Category 9 was the highest level. Only 3 such worlds had ever been discovered. "Explain," she demanded. "The planet has extreme gravity, nearly 10 times the Coalition standard. The atmosphere contains high levels of oxygen, which is corrosive to most species. Temperature variations are extreme. There are constant natural disasters, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, massive storms, and the wildlife." The officer shuddered. "The wildlife is designed to kill. Every creature on this world is either a predator or has developed ways to avoid predators. The humans evolved in this environment, and yet they have no real weapons," Vithris said. "No shields. No ships. What threat can they be?" The officer did not answer. Vithris turned to look at the blue planet growing larger in the view screen. It looked peaceful from space. Beautiful, even. White clouds swirled over blue oceans and green lands. "We will land on the largest peninsula on the eastern continent," she announced. "The humans there call it Korea. We will establish a base, eliminate any resistance, and begin mining operations within 1 week." She smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "This will be over before it begins." Far below, on the surface of Earth, Private First Class Kim Do-won was eating breakfast with his squad. He was 22 years old, with short black hair and a thin face. He had joined the army 2 years ago because he did not know what else to do with his life. He had never fired his weapon outside of training. He had never seen combat. The mess hall was noisy with the sound of soldiers talking and laughing. Someone had turned on a television in the corner, but nobody was watching it. The food was not good, but Do-won ate it anyway. He was always hungry. "Did you hear about the lights in the sky last night?" asked the soldier next to him. His name was Corporal Lee Taiho, and he was Do-won's closest friend in the unit. He was young and thin, with glasses that were always sliding down his nose. Do-won shook his head. "What lights?" "Strange lights. Moving fast. Some people say they were not planes. Probably just satellites," Do-won said. "Or maybe some kind of military test." Taiho opened his mouth to respond, but he never got the chance. The lights went out. For a moment, there was complete darkness. Then the emergency lights came on, filling the room with red light. Everyone stopped talking. They looked at each other with confusion and the first hints of fear. Then the ground shook. The sound came next. A deep roar that seemed to come from everywhere at once. The windows exploded inward, showering the soldiers with glass. Tables flipped over. Men fell to the ground. Do-hwan grabbed Taiho and pulled him under a table. He could hear screaming all around him. He could hear explosions in the distance, one after another, like the world was ending. "What is happening?" Taiho shouted. Do-hwan did not answer. He could not answer. He could only stare at the window, at the sky beyond. The sky was gone. Something massive blocked out the sun. It was dark and metal and covered with lights. It stretched from horizon to horizon. It was a ship, Do-hwan realized. A ship so large that his mind could not truly understand it, and it was not alone. Hundreds of ships filled the sky. Thousands. They hung in the air like mountains turned upside down. Beams of light shot down from them, striking the earth. Wherever the beams touched, there was fire. The television in the corner flickered back to life. A news anchor was speaking, but his voice was shaking so badly that the words barely made sense. Confirmed reports of attacks in Seoul, Bisan, everywhere. This cannot be. Then the image changed. It showed a creature standing in the ruins of a city. It was tall, with gray skin and 4 arms. It wore black armor. It looked directly at the camera and spoke in perfect Korean. "People of Earth, your planet now belongs to the Galactic Coalition. Surrender, and you will be allowed to serve. Resist, and you will be destroyed. You have 1 hour to decide." The broadcast ended. Do-hwan looked at Taiho. Taiho looked back at him. Neither of them spoke. Outside, the world was burning. But somewhere, in a small base in the mountains, Sergeant Park Yuna was already gathering her soldiers. She was already making plans. She was already deciding that she would not surrender. The aliens thought they had won. They did not understand what they had started. Sergeant Park Yuna watched the sky burn from her position in the mountains. She was 31 years old. She had served in the army for 12 years. She had trained hundreds of soldiers. She had never seen war. Now war had come to her. The base where she had been running exercises was small. Just a training camp, hidden in the hills. The aliens had not bothered to bomb it. Why would they? It was nothing. A few buildings. A few soldiers. No threat at all. That was their first mistake. Yuna counted her soldiers. 17. Most of them were recruits who had never fired their weapons at a living target. They were scared. She could see it in their eyes. They had watched the cities burn. They had seen the alien ships darken the sky. They knew they were supposed to be dead, but they were not dead. And Yuna intended to keep them alive. "Listen to me," she said. Her voice was calm and strong. "I know you are afraid. I am afraid too. But fear is not weakness. Fear keeps you alive. Use it." The soldiers looked at her. They needed someone to follow, someone to tell them what to do. Yuna would be that person. "The enemy thinks we are nothing," she continued. "They think they have already won. They are walking through our land like they own it. They are not expecting resistance. That is their weakness, and we will use it." She spread a map on the ground and pointed to a road that wound through the valley below. "Enemy soldiers will come through here. My scouts have confirmed it. 200 of them, maybe more. They are heading to the next town to establish control." Corporal Lee Taiho, who had somehow made it to the mountains with Private Do-hwan, raised his hand. "Sergeant, there are only 17 of us. We have rifles." They have better weapons," Yuna agreed. "Better armor. Better training. More soldiers. On paper, we cannot win." She smiled. It was not a kind smile. But this is not paper. This is the mountains. This is our home. And they do not know what we can do. The ambush was set within hours. Una positioned her soldiers on both sides of the narrow road. They dug into the hillsides. They covered themselves with branches and dirt until they became invisible. They waited in silence as the sun moved across the sky. The aliens came at dusk. They marched in perfect formation. Their armor was black and shiny. Their weapons glowed with blue light. They were tall, most of them over 2 meters. Some had 4 arms. Some had scales. Some had too many eyes. The coalition army was made of many species, united in their belief that they were superior. They did not look at the hills. They did not check for enemies. Why would they? They had destroyed all resistance from orbit. The humans were beaten. The humans were nothing. Una waited until the enemy formation was directly below her. Position dot, then she pressed the button. The explosions tore through the road. The soldiers had buried their grenades during the night, connected by wire, set to explode together. The blast killed 30 aliens instantly. The rest fell into confusion. Fire. Una screamed. The hillsides came alive with gunfire. The soldiers aimed for the gaps in the alien armor, for the joints, for the eyes. They had studied the enemy during those hours of waiting. They had found the weak points. Aliens fell, one after another. They tried to return fire, but they could not see their attackers. The humans were shadows in the trees. Ghosts in the mountains thought the aliens tried to retreat. Una had prepared for this. She had placed soldiers at both ends of the road. There was no escape. 11 minutes. That was how long the battle lasted. When it was over, 63 alien soldiers lay dead on the road. Their blood was different colors: purple, green, blue. It mixed together and flowed like a strange river. Una had lost 9 soldiers. 9 good people who had trusted her. She would remember their names forever. But they had done something incredible. They had proven that the aliens could die. "Move," she ordered the survivors. "More will come. We need to disappear." They vanished into the mountains before enemy reinforcements arrived. On her flagship, Admiral Vithras received the report. She read it 3 times. She did not believe it. 63 soldiers dead. Killed by primitives with chemical weapons. Killed in an ambush on a simple road. This was not possible. This could not be happening. "Find them," she ordered. "Find the humans who did this. Burn the mountains if you have to. I want them dead." But the mountains were vast. The humans knew every path, every cave, every hidden valley. They had grown up in these hills. They belonged here, that the aliens did not. Word of the ambush spread quickly. Other survivors heard the story. Other soldiers who had escaped the bombing. Other people who refused to surrender. In the ruins of Seoul, a young woman named Choi My-rae listened to the report on a hidden radio. She had been a software engineer before the invasion. Now she was something else. Something harder. She began to organize. To connect the scattered survivors. To build a network. In a small village, a 14-year-old girl named Han Sora sharpened a piece of metal she had taken from her family's farm. Her parents were dead. Her home was ash. She had nothing left but hate. She would make the aliens pay for what they had done. Across Korea, in 1,000 hiding places, the resistance was born. They were not soldiers. They were farmers and teachers and students and workers. They were ordinary people who had lost everything, but they were human. And humans did not surrender. Admiral Vithras looked at the map of Korea and frowned. She had expected this mission to take 1 week. Now she was not sure how long it would take. She still believed she would win. She had 40,000 soldiers, 300 ships, The most advanced weapons in the galaxy. She did not understand yet. She did not know that she had just begun the worst war of her life. 3 weeks passed. The coalition controlled nothing. Oh, they held the cities, or what was left of them. They set up bases with tall walls and guards at every corner. They controlled the main roads during daylight. They had weapons that could level mountains, but the humans did not fight for cities. They did not fight for roads. They fought for something else, something the aliens could not understand. They fought because they were angry, and their anger had no end. Lieutenant Choi Mai-Rei sat in an underground bunker that had once been a subway station. Wires hung from the walls. Old computers hummed with electricity stolen from the alien power grid. Maps covered every surface. She was 27 years old. Before the invasion, she had written code for video games. Now she wrote code for war. Her network covered 3 provinces. Hundreds of resistance cells, all connected by buried cables and radio signals. The aliens looked for quantum transmissions. They looked for advanced technology. They never thought to look for telephone wires buried in the dirt. That was their second mistake. Every night, Mai-Rei received reports. Every night, the numbers grew. Firebase Gamma, 3 sentries killed. Their throats were cut. No one saw anything. The bodies were not discovered until morning. Supply convoy on Route 7. 20 vehicles destroyed. The explosives had been buried in the road before the aliens even landed. The humans had been preparing for war their entire lives. They just did not know it. Research team in Sector 12. 6 alien scientists sent to study human biology. All missing. Their equipment was smashed. A message was carved into the wall in the alien language. Go home. Mai-Rei smiled when she read that report. She knew who had done it. Han Sora was becoming a legend. The girl was only 14, but she had already killed more aliens than most adult soldiers. She moved like a ghost through the occupied zones. She never used guns. Guns were loud. Guns attracted attention. She used knives, traps, poison. Once, she had killed an alien commander by putting glass in his food. The aliens learned to fear the dark. They learned to fear the silence. They learned to fear children. Admiral Vithris summoned her senior officers and scientists to a meeting. She had not slept in 3 days. Her gray skin had turned pale. Her 4 hands would not stop shaking. Explain this to me, she demanded. How are we losing? No one wanted to speak first. Finally, Dr. Krell stepped forward. He was the fleet's chief xenobiologist. His job was to study alien species. He had studied thousands of them. Thousands of them. None had prepared him for humans. Admiral, he said slowly, I believe we made a fundamental error in our assessment. What error? We saw that the humans had primitive technology. We assumed this meant they were primitive. We were wrong. He pulled up images on the screen. Images of human history. Of wars and disasters and extinctions. Humans have only had advanced technology for 200 years. But their species is 200,000 years old. For most of that time, they survived on this Deathworld with nothing but their bodies and their minds. He showed images of ancient humans hunting animals many times their size. They are persistent predators. Their ancestors killed prey by following it for days without rest. The prey would run. It would tire. It would collapse. The humans would still be coming. They never stopped. They never gave up. Vithris stared at the images. Their planet tried to kill them, Krell continued. Ice ages, supervolcanoes, asteroid impacts, mass extinctions. Every time, they survived. They adapted. They became stronger. He looked directly at the Admiral. We did not invade a primitive species on a dangerous world. We invaded the most successful predators in the galaxy on their home territory. And they are not treating this as a war. What are they treating it as? A hunt? And we are the prey." The room was silent. Then the alarms started screaming. Another base had been attacked. Another convoy destroyed. Another patrol had vanished into the forests and never returned. Vithris looked at the map. Red dots marked every attack. There were so many dots that they nearly covered the entire peninsula. She had started with 40,000 soldiers. She had lost 8,000 in 3 weeks. Not in battles. In ambush. In traps. In the dark, her soldiers were afraid to leave their bases. They were afraid to sleep. They jumped at every shadow. Some had started to break down completely. They screamed about monsters in the night. About humans who could walk through walls. About children with empty eyes and bloody hands. The Nolani had conquered 800 worlds. They had never faced anything like this. On a hilltop overlooking an alien base, Sergeant Park Yuna trained her growing army. She had started with 17 soldiers. Now she had 300. More arrived every day. "The aliens are strong," she told them. "But strength is not everything. We are fast. We are smart. We know this land. And we never stop fighting." Private Kim Do-won stood in the crowd. He had changed in the past weeks. He was thinner, harder. His eyes had seen things that would never leave him, but he was still alive. And he was learning. He was learning that humans were not weak. They had never been weak. They had just been waiting. Waiting for a reason to show the universe what they really were. The aliens had given them that reason. Now there was no going back. 1 year later, the Grand Senate of the Galactic Coalition met in emergency session. The Senate Hall was enormous. It could hold representatives from 400 species. Every seat was filled. Every eye, whether 2 or 12, was focused on the small figure standing at the center of the chamber. Junior Communications Officer Nithal was the only survivor. She had once been young for her kind. Her scales had been bright blue, her movements quick and confident. Now her scales were gray. Her body trembled. She moved like someone who had forgotten how to live without fear. 40,000 soldiers had gone to Earth. She was the only one who came back. The High Speaker, an ancient creature with a voice like grinding stone, called the session to order. Junior Officer Nithal, you have been brought before this Senate to give testimony about the ways. Events on planet KX7741. You will tell us what happened. To the 8th Combined Fleet, you will tell us how 40,000 soldiers and 300 warships were destroyed by a primitive species. You will begin now. Nithal closed her eyes. When she opened them, they were wet with tears. They learned everything about us, she said. Her voice was barely a whisper. We thought they were primitive. We thought they were stupid. We were the stupid ones. Explain. They captured our soldiers. They did not kill them. Not right away. They asked questions. They studied our weapons, our armor, our ships. They learned our patrol schedules, our communication codes, our supply routes. She shuddered. Within months, they were using our own weapons against us. They stole our vehicles. They figured out how to fly our ships. A species that had never left their planet learned to pilot starships. They learned by watching, by experimenting, by dying and trying again. The Senate was silent. This was not possible. Primitive species could not learn coalition technology so quickly. It should have taken centuries. Tell us about the final battle, the High Speaker commanded. Nithal's voice broke. It was winter. The winter. The temperature dropped so low that our armor stopped working. The cold killed our power systems. We had never experienced such cold. The humans had lived in it their entire lives. They attacked during a storm. Wind and snow so thick we could not see. Our sensors were useless. Our weapons would not fire. We were blind and helpless. They came out of the storm like ghosts. Thousands of them. They had been hiding, waiting, for months. They had planned every moment of that attack. She looked at the assembled representatives with haunted eyes. They did not just defeat us. They destroyed us. Ship by ship. Base by base. Soldier by soldier. They left no survivors except the ones they wanted to survive. Why did they let you live? To carry a message. The Senate chamber fell completely silent. A human came to our final transport. There were 200 of us left. The last survivors. We were surrounded. We had no weapons. No hope. The human was female. Small. Young. She said her name was Hansora. She said she was 14 years old. Gasps echoed through the chamber. 14 years was a child by any species standard. She walked through our ranks like we were nothing. Her clothes were covered in blood. Our blood. She carried a weapon she had made herself from farming tools. She stopped in front of our commander. Admiral Vithras was on her knees. The admiral, who had conquered 12 worlds, was crying. The girl looked at her. Then she looked at all of us. And she smiled. Nithal was crying now. Tears ran down her gray scales. She said, "Tell your masters what you saw here. Tell them that Earth is not for conquest. Tell them that we are coming. Not today. Not tomorrow. But someday. When we learn how to cross the stars, we will remember who attacked us. And we will find you." The High Speaker leaned forward. This child. How many of our soldiers did she actually kill? She claimed 37. Our records confirmed 41. Chaos erupted in the Senate. Representatives screamed in disbelief. Some ran for the exits. Others sat frozen, unable to process what they had heard. A single child had killed 41 trained soldiers with a weapon made from farm equipment. "There is more," Nithal said. The chamber quieted. Before they let us go, they showed us something. They took us to a field outside one of their cities. The field was filled with graves. Thousands of graves. Humans who had died in the war. Soldiers. Civilians. Old and young. A human commander stood before the graves. Her name was Park Yuna. She had started the first resistance group. She had trained the army that destroyed us. She pointed at the graves and said, "Every one of them had a family. Every one of them had dreams. Every one of them died fighting for this world. And you think a species that will sacrifice everything for their home can be conquered? You think we will ever stop?" Then she looked at me. Right at me. And she said, "Go home, little one. Tell them we are awake now. Tell them we will never sleep again." Nithal fell to her knees. She could not stand anymore. "I have told you what I saw. I have given my testimony. Now I ask only one thing." "What do you ask?" "Never go back. Never send another fleet. Never attack Earth again. Because if you do, they will not let anyone survive to carry a message. If you go back, they will come for us. All of us, every world, every species, every life in the coalition." She looked up at the assembled representatives. The humans are not primitive. They were just waiting. And now they are angry. And there is nothing in this universe more dangerous than an angry human. The Senate voted that day. 17 resolutions passed unanimously. Earth was quarantined. The records were sealed. The coalition began to prepare, not for war, for survival. 60 years passed. The Galactic Coalition kept its promise. No ship approached Earth. No signal was sent. The quarantine zone extended 50 light years in every direction. Warning beacons drifted in the darkness, screaming their message to anyone who would listen. Stay away. Death lives here. The galaxy tried to forget about the blue planet. They tried to pretend the humans did not exist, but they could not stop watching. Telescopes pointed at Earth from hidden stations. Probes drifted at the edge of the forbidden zone. The coalition watched and waited and feared. They watched the humans rebuild their cities. They watched them bury their dead. They watched them create monuments to the war, statues of soldiers standing defiant against the sky. They watched them build new ships. Year after year, the humans reached further into space. They colonized their moon. They built stations around their red neighbor planet. They sent probes to the edges of their system. And then, one day, the probes detected something that made the coalition tremble. A ship, small, fast, moving at speeds that should not be possible. The humans had built a faster-than-light engine. They were coming, on Earth. In a small village in the mountains of Korea, an old woman sat by a fire. Her hair was white. Her face was lined with wrinkles. Her hands, which had once held weapons, now held a cup of tea. Han Sora was 73 years old. She had become a legend. Songs were sung about her. Children played games pretending to be her. The government had offered her medals, positions, honors of every kind. She had refused them all. She wanted only peace. She wanted only to live quietly and remember those who had not survived. But tonight, her grandchildren gathered around her. They wanted to hear the old stories. They always wanted to hear the old stories. "Grandmother," the youngest said. She was 7 years old, with bright eyes and endless curiosity. "Tell us about the star demons again." Sora smiled. She still had the same smile she had shown the aliens 60 years ago. But now there was warmth in it. Now there was peace. "The star demons came from far away," she said. "They had big ships and scary weapons. They thought they could take our world." "Were you scared, grandmother?" Sora thought about this question. She thought about the parents she had lost, the friends who had died, the nights she had spent hiding in the dark, waiting for the chance to strike. "No," she said. "I was angry. And that was stronger than fear." "What happened to the star demons?" "We showed them what we are. We showed them that Earth makes its children strong. We showed them that we never give up. And they left. They left and they never came back." The youngest grandchild leaned forward. "Will they ever come back?" "No," Sora said. "But we might go to them." Far above the village, hidden among the stars, humanity's first interstellar vessel completed its final preparations. Captain Beak Jisoo sat in the command chair. She was 34 years old. Her grandmother had fought in the war. Her mother had helped build the first lunar bases. She had trained her entire life for this moment. The ship was called Hope. It was small, only 50 meters long. It carried a crew of 12. It was not a warship. It carried no weapons. It did not need weapons. Its mission was not war. Its mission was first contact. "All systems ready," the navigation officer reported. Jisoo nodded. She opened a channel to Mission Control, located in Seoul. The city had been rebuilt 3 times since the invasion. Each time it rose stronger than before. On the screen appeared the face of Director Park Yuna. She was old now, past 90, but her eyes were still sharp. Her mind was still clear. She had led the resistance. She had rebuilt the military. She had guided humanity to the stars. She had waited 60 years for this day. "Captain Beak," she said. "Report. All systems green, Director. We are ready for departure." Yuna nodded slowly. Behind her, Jisoo could see the control room filled with engineers and scientists. She could see the flags of every nation that had survived the invasion. She could see the faces of people watching the greatest moment in human history. You understand your mission, Una said. It was not a question. Yes, Director. We travel to the Nalani homeworld. We make contact. We show them that we come in peace. And if they do not receive you peacefully? Jisoo smiled. It was a small smile, but it carried the weight of 60 years of preparation. Then we show them what we showed them before. That we do not break. That we do not surrender. That we are human. Una closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them, they were wet with tears. I fought for this day, she whispered. All those years ago, in the mountains, I dreamed of this day. The day we would reach the stars. The day we would show the universe what we are. She straightened in her chair. Her voice became strong. Captain Beak, you carry the hopes of all humanity. You carry the memory of everyone who died to make this possible. Do not forget them. But do not be consumed by anger. Show the galaxy that we are more than warriors. Show them that we can be friends. Yes, Director. Una smiled. It was the smile of a warrior who had finally found peace. Authorization granted. Go, Captain. Show them what we are. The engines hummed. The stars stretched and blurred. The ship called Hope vanished into the void. Behind it, a blue planet spun slowly in the darkness. A world of monsters. A world of survivors. A world that had faced the worst the universe could offer and refused to die. Across the galaxy, the Coalition watched their sensors with growing dread. They saw the ship approaching. They knew what it meant that the humans were coming. Not for revenge. Not for war. For something the Coalition had never considered. For friendship. But they came with the memory of what had been done to them. They came with the strength of those who had survived. They came with the promise that they would never be victims again. And as the ship called Hope traveled through the darkness, a message traveled ahead of it. A message broadcast on every frequency. A message in 100 Coalition languages. The message said, "We are humanity. We come from Earth. 60 years ago, you tried to destroy us. You failed. Now we reach for the stars. We offer peace. We offer friendship. We offer the chance to begin again. But know this, we remember. We always remember. And we will never forget what we are capable of. Choose wisely." The stars waited. The galaxy held its breath. The humans had arrived, and nothing would ever be the same again.